Welcome to the call. My name is Dee Meyer. I am the Humanities Team University Coordinator and one of the co-hosts of the Living in Oneness 5 Pillars for Success Summit. I'm excited about today's call with Nina Meyerhof because I'm going to be learning about creating oneness through parenting and education right along with you. I will introduce Nina to you in just a minute. We're truly grateful to the over 15,000 people that have registered for our summit. Thank you for joining us today on the phone, on webcast, and for listening to the replays in the future. Thank you to our members who have purchased the Living in Oneness upgrade packages. This program supports the work of Humanities Team, and we are grateful. To learn more about our programming, you can go to livinginone.com/upgrade. We'd love to have you share your comments and questions and aha moments during this call. You can post them on Nina Meyerhof's page on the website at livinginone.com/speakers/Nina-Meyerhof. Or you can enter your comments into the questions section of the webcast. We love learning together, and this is an area where we can share the in-the-moment learning. Some people like to take notes in this section. Feel free to write down the ideas you want to remember here. Nanette Kennedy is producing our call today. Thank you, Nanette. And for those of you on the webcast, please enter your name and where you're listening in from, and Nanette will bring your questions and comments and aha moments from the webcast to us. Today you are in for a real treat. I have the great pleasure of introducing Nina Meyerhof. Nina has a doctorate in education and has worked in over 70 countries as an innovative educator committed to global responsibility through authentic learning with focus on realizing that peace must come from within our interwoven unity. She has co-authored Conscious Education, The Bridge to Freedom, and the Handbook and Training Manual. Pioneering Spiritual Activism, her work stresses the creation of an inner revolution for social evolution in order to build a better, more peaceful world. We first must begin with self-awareness. She is the recipient of the Mother Teresa Award, the Citizens Department of Peace Award, the International Educators Award for Peace, as well as the State of Vermont passed a resolution honoring her life's work. Welcome, Nina.
Well, welcome, everyone, and thank you for your attendance here.
So, Nina, would you like to lead us in a brief meditation to start our call today?
Yes, I would love to. This meditation is an adaptation that was inspired by the Great Invocation and was worked by Glenna Vogel and a number of youth around the world. It goes. And if you don't mind closing your eyes and really holding this thought and feeling the energies that we share together. From I to we to one. From the point of light within the mind of oneness, let light stream forth into our minds. Let light descend on earth. From the point of love within the heart of oneness, let love stream forth into our hearts. May love increase on earth. From the center where the will of oneness is known, let purpose guide our wills, the purpose which the holy ones know and serve. From the center which we call humanity, let the plan of love and light work out, and may it transform darkness into light. Let light, love, and unity heal our world. Let light, love, and unity awaken humanity. Let light, love, and unity cultivate peace and harmony on earth.
Wow.
Thank you.
That's a powerful invocation and meditation. Can you tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah, this comes from the Alice Bailey work, which was the Great Invocation, and the understanding that if it's repeated on a continual basis, that it will invoke the masters and their energies to come through us and to bring further peace and harmony on earth. And the young people with Glenna felt some of the language and vocabulary was a little representative of past times, and so they adapted it, and we got approval from the different groups that have been using it to refine it in this way to one. If you notice, the letter I is one letter, and we is two, and the one is three. And the idea, that we're whole that way as one.
Well, that is just so powerful. You can really feel the energy of that invocation. I would love to have that to share. After the call, I'm sure that so many people would really appreciate it.
That sounds fine. I'm happy to copy it and send it to you, Dee.
Oh, thank you. Could you share with us a little bit about why you are so passionate about your work, and also how does oneness fit into that work?
Okay. I would say that, people are born with gifts, and my gift was always with young people. I started working with young people around 27 years old, but even prior to that, I was always an advocate for those that didn't fit in, and I was sort of a leader personality, and so I would always be embracing those that stood on the outside and trying to find a way how we would integrate as a collective group. And this passion continued to grow, and I looked at young people and what were their needs, and at that time I saw it be self-esteem. But if one kept going back into the essence of a human being, one begins to understand that there's a spiritual nature, an authentic self that lives within all of this, and that the outer self is more a response mechanism to what is happening in the world, be it your parents or whatever experiences. And if I were to speak about oneness, and I would say this is what is very unique about our work, is most people's work, when they work with young people or even in conflicted areas, when they're working on coming together, they always go from the perspective of how we are different and how do we learn to tolerate each other, how do we become understanding and have mutual respect. While in this process, I would say, oneness, it's where we go to the essence who we are, and we find out that we all are somehow one, that we have the same dreams and desires and hold beauty in our hearts and wish for love and understanding. And so if we can go from the place of oneness, then we can begin to look at differences. And so that's how it fits into my work.
Wow, that is incredible. So you're going from the perspective of putting aside your differences and looking for your similarities first.
Right.
So
we go from sameness to uniqueness versus the other way around.
Mm-hmm. So what inspired you to focus your life advocating for our world's youth?
I think I was always interested in pioneering new thinking and how could we begin to create change in the world. And my philosophical conviction is that the young people we are always in the process of evolving, and the young people are the next phase of evolution, and their children will be the following phase. And so if we were to have young people come together but no longer ask them to imitate the systems that we've had in the past, but rather to begin to see themselves as initiators of something new, that then they can become the engine of change. And I believe that as adults and elders, we hold the framework, but they're the change makers. And that's why I work with them and support them in their endeavors.
Tell us about Children of the Earth and how and when you started the organization.
Children of the Earth, I ran a World Children's Center in Vermont and had young people coming there over 30 years or so. But I started Children of the Earth in 1990 based on the Convention on the Rights of the Child that was held at the United Nations, and brought young people all together from around the world, and then we worked on a document that was called the Declaration of Peace and presented it in New York at the UN, and then to His Holiness the Dalai Lama, who was so inspired by that work that he shared with us our responsibility to continue it in the world. And that was the beginning of it. It's an organization now that functions in about 70 countries. We have 30 ongoing chapters. We do presentations. And it's really all about who are we as spiritual beings, what does that look like in terms of creating peace, and how do we motivate action for change in the world.
Wow. So how does that work, Nina? Do you work through schools? How do people become associated with Children of the Earth? How do they find out about it?
Well, at different times, differently. We've been in schools in different countries, like in Nepal or here in the United States or in Canada at the university. But sometimes it's an organization that hears about us or an individual who's inspired and helps us come together and go to a country. We were in Ghana recently where we brought young people together. So it really depends. And I think because we've been around and been on the cutting edge for so long that people know about us and this work if it interests them.
Well, you know, I came into Humanities team originally wanting to create youth programming. And so I find it really fascinating, and I think that our future together, our organizations working together, could really create a wider net.
Yeah, I think it would be wonderful.
To develop leadership.
I've spoken to several people about that because I do believe that we have similar mission visions. And that would be a good thing, is to how to bring the young people into your grouping more and for them to take on some of the leadership, you know, with their ideas and their actions and their capabilities.
Well, you are an advocate for young people, teaching them to go beyond cultural, ethnic, and religious differences and to strive for altruistic ethics. How do you accomplish this good work?
Well, first of all, I think it's about holding energy collectively. Like if a group of people come together and have the same vision and hold the energy of the group, that there's this potential for things to move in that direction. But the other part is that we have a 3-part phasing of how we get to the action. The first phase is called reflect. And that's about different means of reflection, about coming to an understanding of who am I, what is my passion, what do I want to give in the world. And then the second phase is connect. How do I take what I believe I have now and connect it with others so that we develop skills like nonviolent communication or transcending conflict, or, you know, different models that help you go from the I to the we. And then the third part is the action, and that's looking at where you are locally and where you are globally, and how do you develop a plan of action so that with a timeline, and how do you make commitments to do these activities so that you can create change around you. And the whole idea is that we're a global weaving form, and that it's not so much about who you are in your local environment, but to recognize as one humanity that we share in the issues and we share in the solutions, and we can create the difference. And if enough of the young people come together, that they will do the tipping point.
Wow. We've got people putting their hands up. Would you like to take a live question?
Sure.
All right. I believe we have Melody from Salt Lake City.
Hi, Melody.
Oh, whoops. Nope, she's not live. I've taught high school-aged students for nearly 20 years. This is my passion. I love working with these kids. I sneak oneness into the public classroom, and it works beautifully. I have 3 teenage daughters, 14, 16, and 18. I don't understand why I have such a hard time connecting with my own children when discussing oneness. I could use your advice.
Well, I'm laughing because it's always hard to be a star in your own backyard. In other words, it's like what you can do outside of your family, constellation is usually easier on some level because you don't come with expectations and people's preconceived ideas of who you are. Your children have already these karmic relationship action response. But what I would say, and I think could be helpful, is that if you're thinking about parenting and helping a young person in your family come to the understanding of who they are and how they're interconnected with you, it's that you have to begin to understand that they're an independent human being. And that means not projecting what's not okay with them, but rather always seeing them as the potential of who they are. And I think even, as a parent, worrying or judging just creates this atmosphere of not good enough. And so important to begin to say, you are who you are, and I really support you in that process. And then if that young person feels supported, they'll be able to look at you as separate and understand that with that separateness, you are united because you can be good to each other. Is that helpful?
That is helpful, and that's huge work for all parents. It's that process of allowing your children, you allow them to grow up in a way that you offer them that ability to see you with fresh eyes and you see them with fresh eyes. Right. Do you have any other advice that you'd like to offer parents today?
Well, I think the biggest thing is the projections that we impose on our young on our children and our teenagers, and that even when their behaviors seem like they take a route that doesn't match what we would like for them, that what we do is we give them an environment that says they're not good enough, and that we need to help them with the understanding they are good enough. It's their behaviors that might not match some of the things that are needed for that issue at hand. And I think that's the most important thing, is to see that soul self of that human being. Because what is the soul self? Because once someone taps into that, there's no longer comparisons. There's just I am who I am, and you are who you are, and how do we come together around that?
That really speaks to how youth and young adults can motivate themselves, too, because, we've brought up our children, and oftentimes they're trying to please us. Everything they do is about pleasing us, and it kind of shifts it to a new perspective of learning to please themselves. They probably want the same goals for themselves, but It's not about the pressure of pleasing a parent. It's because it pleases them, and that is critical.
Right. Exactly. And parenting is not an easy process because it's a lifetime process. It's not like going to the classroom and working 45 minutes with somebody. But I would say the more work you do on yourself, the easier the relationship gets. So it's really because you're doing your projections all the time. And as you catch your projections and release them, then, you get to experience the person. And that's really helpful because once somebody feels they are seen, then they're appreciated. And in that appreciation, behaviors become naturally much more harmonious.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So what changes are you anticipating for children and their parents in the educational field, like, say, in the next 5 to 10 years?
Yeah, well, what I'm seeing now is the new rubric is mindfulness. It was before that character education, emotional education, self-esteem development, global understanding. But right now, there's this understanding of mindfulness. And what does that mean? It's like teachers, educators, school personnel are feeling that sense that they're not experiencing the children, students as who they are, but are always downloading information onto them. And downloaded information can be acquired now easily by computer and doesn't have to be initiated by the teacher. A structure and a framework could. So then you get very concerned, who is the person and what does mindfulness mean? And the way people are defining mindfulness now, it looks like they're speaking about not stress. They're looking at how can a person feel at peace with oneself? What does it look like to come forward and be self-expressive without it being a discharge of emotions? And so mindfulness will start to really move into the curriculums. And I see that happening more and more.
Yeah, I have a 15-year-old daughter, and when she started school, we were really fortunate. My daughter grew up in the mountains. We lived in a small community, and we had a one-room schoolhouse with 17 students at the time and 2 teachers. And their day started off in meditation and centering, coming together as a group. So it was pretty amazing. And, for the most part.
I was going to say that I really feel that having had groups of kids, worked with groups in a long time, I usually start off by saying that the environment I've created is as beautiful as possible, and I've done it for you. So anything that happens here is the result of how we are with each other. And then starting with a guided visualization or a meditation allows their energies to flow to each other. And the whole idea is not to judge each other and not to discriminate, but to accept one another and to realize you're part of like a growing family. And that really helps when you have different ages, but you can do it if it's a common age also. And they're very grateful because they're very grateful to have time for themselves. I once did a study on young people about what was their favorite subject, and the majority said recess. Now, why is it? It isn't because they didn't like the subject. It's because they want to have a connection to the others. And we in the school business need to understand that connectivity makes things relevant. I mean, education means to bring forth, to draw out, to educare. It doesn't mean to just sit in a chair and be taught something and memorize it. So if you can sit together and learn together and feel like it's relevant to your life and that there's a communication going on, that changes everything. And I know they do it in the lower grades, but it becomes very complex in the upper grades.
We have quite a few questions coming in, and we have quite a few teachers listening in. So if you wanted to do any more experiential processes that they could use as examples, that would be wonderful. I don't know if you want to do more questions first or if we could do some more processes. What would be good for you?
Well, I think the questions would be helpful.
Okay.
So I know where they were coming from.
Okay, so the first question is, I'm pregnant with my first child, a son. I want to raise him in a oneness-connected home. I think this will be good and won't be that hard. The problem comes in where my husband wants to raise our son in the Anglican Church. Both paths blend and still have oneness. Can both paths blend and still have oneness be the most important aspect of his upbringing? And that's from Jeannie in the UK.
Hi, Jeannie. Such a good question. And what comes to me when I feel through this question, first of all, oneness means so many different things to different people. Oneness can mean oneness on the highest level of consciousness where there is no experience of the self is different from the other. It's almost like cells in the body of one consciousness. And then there are others that oneness is being one with the divine energy within yourself, and that means experiencing yourself as divine and understanding that you are always connected to greater consciousness, the Creator, and all of life, and therefore you move in life in a different way than somebody that wouldn't be fully conscious. They might be interested or be a humanitarian, but to be fully conscious means that all actions are fulfilled in this enlightened manner. And then there's oneness, which means that we recognize the science of that we're all interwoven, we're all interdependent, and that means that whatever I do impacts you wherever you are and vice versa, and your thought patterns also, so that we're always sending out energies to each other. So what I would say is, yes, oneness can exist and you can be a living model of it, and you can go to church or you can go to the supermarket. It's really what comes from inside out, and my little words of advice is not to make it an issue, but to work with what is and to see how you move through it, because making it an issue becomes who's right and who's wrong, and then that becomes an imbalance. That makes it a little difficult. And so if you can go to the highest point of understanding we are in this together as parents, let us enjoy our son, I think you'll be doing possibly good.
That's beautiful advice. We have another question from Miriam from St. Martin, the French West Indies. I'm working with children who are very disruptive due to traumas they suffer from. They feed off the negative energy from others in the group. Any idea of an exercise we could do to help them calm their emotions apart from breathing and brief meditation?
Well, yeah, I mean, I come from a background of having worked with emotionally challenged young people, autistic, schizophrenic, etc. So, my learning base was with young people that have been traumatized. It's really helpful to be able to have them work in a small group and be able to do a group drawing of their dreams, always attempting to bring forward the positive and how they can be together. Yeah, I mean, what I know about traumatized young people is if one person can step on the head of another one to see that they're higher, then they feel more empowered, and the one below feels disempowered, and the cycle continues and continues. So to break that cycle takes having activities which are always bringing group cohesiveness, even the fact of, like, if one is rewarded, the whole group is rewarded. If one steps out, that the whole group discusses this. It becomes like a family council. How do we change this standard? And I usually have taken young people sitting together to identify how they would like the world to be, how would they like their world to be, how would they like their own behavior to be, and to identify all those areas. And then the whole group works on this understanding, because then they can reflect on that and see in terms of their behaviors where they're behaving appropriately and meeting the standards that they set or not. So that rather than you becoming the policewoman, you help them to evaluate themselves and support them in that process. I hope this helps a little. I mean, there are many exercises, but, that's a general understanding.
I really love the creativity of asking them to do a group art project that where they are trying to create their dreams. So
Right.
They can create, basically you're trying to encourage them to create heaven on earth, so they're perceiving their highest, what they want,
Exactly.
and bringing that in. I think creativity
That's exactly right.
is just so useful for anyone needing to work through any kind of emotions, or even just for your daily exercise, just to connect into that energetic source. I find real helpful.
Yeah.
So
even they can label it as, they can give themselves a group name for that. They can then, go, do other things like music together and things like that. They can write a document on what they had in their group painting and what it means to them, so that they're always working towards that higher good, whether they realize it or not. And they will realize it, because there'll be something that will spark within themselves. The hardest thing is to change one's role from police person into inspire, motivator.
Yeah. So we have another message coming in. Francis from Atlanta asks for recommendations for good story form books for middle-aged and high school-aged kids that will hold their interest, that have oneness in the themes.
I'm sorry, I don't think I can offer that, because I haven't worked from using books like that, but I think if you were to Google it, you will maybe find some.
And I think if they look on our website, too, we have some recommendations, and we can follow up with links to that later.
Okay, that would be great.
Yeah.
I wanted to say that we just put out a CD, and maybe I could tell people about it, because it was interesting. First of all, the most fascinating part is that Tina Turner with Regula submitted one song, and it's so beautiful. It's the opening song. And then we have on it Yash Kumar, who is from Nepal, and he is the teen idol of Nepal and has expanded into India, but he's done a lot of movies and things. His voice is like an angel. And then we have the young girl from Nigeria who comes from Abuja, who is, her name is Princess, and she is a real little princess. I've known her 15 years, and she's been a peacemaker, but she's living in the town where the bombings are going on and where the girls have been kidnapped, etc. And she's working towards a program called One Peaceful Africa, but she sings about universal love on the CD. But partially while I'm telling you about the CD, because it's so indicative of our work, it's taking young people and music and allowing them to express themselves and weave together what they think is important. So it's young people for young people doing music together.
Now, you can find out more about this on Nina's website, on our page on the website in Living Oneness, on her page there is a special offer, and you can click on that link, and it will take you to the offer that Nina is talking about right now. That's Wisdom of the Heart, Songs to Inspire, Transcendence, and Peace. And there are 11 songs on there, and this is just a wonderful set of songs, and it's in an MP3 format, and it's available immediately, and you can buy it now. And this goes to support the work of both Humanities Team and Children of Earth. So this is really a beautiful, rich set of music. I think everyone will enjoy it. So we'll mention that again at the end of the song, or end of the webcast. This is a song. So one of the things I want to go back to, Nina, is parenting. Becoming a mother for me has been my biggest gift and also my biggest challenge. I have a 15-year-old daughter, Andy, and my life's purpose really changed when I became a mom. It revitalized my spiritual path. And I'm wondering what parenting was like for you.
Well, I ran the World Children's Center at the same time I was a parent, and I was a district director for 10 schools, so I was always working with young people. I mean, it was my life's work. And in terms of parenting, my kids became part of my process. I always looked at it like a painting, in that I was painting their potentials and their future and my philosophical dreams. And so I was totally involved with my children in every step of the way, and really have accepted them. My kids are much older now; they're grown up, and I have grandkids that are growing up. And we're all different, but we love each other, and that's the most important thing. Mm-hmm. In fact, I find it really a blessing that we are so different, and yet we have that understanding that we are one. We love. There is no restrictions on our love. It's uncompromising, unconditional love, which is oneness, like they would be there for me as I would be there for them.
What were some of the challenges, parenting challenges, that you had as you look back at them now? Maybe you can share some of your biggest challenges and the process that you used to work through the challenges to share with the parents listening in.
Well, I think having two children, and one so excelled in school and the other one excelled more in sports and probably creativity, and how to balance that when the oldest one had so much visual success, by other people's success definition. It's like success in our society today is how much money you make. Mm-hmm. Success in school has always been how well you did by getting your grades, and it's very linear. It doesn't really look at allowing people to bring their gifts to the table and supporting them in whatever those gifts are, like music or art or, relationship building. I mean, it doesn't have to be academic skills. There is this understanding that there are different strengths that people come with. So how to, and that's why I brought up before, rather than feeling bad for the one that was not succeeding in the way schools expected, that I began to understand to support that young person, my son, in a way of being who he is, and to really allow that to grow so that he could feel good about himself and not have to compare himself to his brother, because it's so natural that one does this comparison in the families, and that's very difficult on kids.
It is, and we have a very similar situation in our family as well, and it is a challenge, to support and uphold and honor both children.
Right.
So, a few years ago, we worked with a group of young girls, and they were from Palestine and Israel, and it was called Creativity for Peace. And they brought the girls over to, I think it was near Santa Fe, and they would have them stay for, I believe it was a month. And they would put one girl from Israel and one girl from Palestine in the same room, and they shared the room and really had the opportunity to get to know each other as people. And I think, for some of the girls, when they were sharing their stories, talking about, at first it was impossible to really feel safe in that room with this person that was, a polar enemy generationally. Not that they really thought that, but they felt it. It was. It took that long to get over that, and by the end of the time, they said they were best friends, and they go back to Palestine and Israel, and they're going back in, becoming young activists, young mothers, and it was extraordinary listening to their stories.
Yeah. I've spent time in the Palestinian area and also in Israel and worked with young people. And one of the best ways is to bring them out of the situation. And I love what I call mix and match, like to have kids from different conflicting areas all together, from Somalia to Ghana to, mix and match, Bosnia, Croatia, and just bring them all together and work from the point of view of what are your rights and what are your responsibilities and how do we work together and how do we define the world if we came from one family of humankind, and that's that whole universal understanding again. And what we found, of course, is that it really helped to break all barriers to understand that you were connected. But what is difficult is that they do go back, and there is this permeating cultural environment which teaches separation and anger and hostility as a way of defining oneself and strength. So to be an advocate for peace and love and beauty within that takes amazing focus and a lot of support from the groups that have been developing the project, I would say, because it's difficult to go back. I mean, it's just difficult. I brought 250 young people from conflicting war zones to the United Nations and on human rights in Vienna 10, 15 years ago or so. And it was so interesting to see them understand finally that we are all human beings, that we have brown skin, white skin, red skin, yellow skin. We have brown hair, yellow hair, red hair, or blue eyes, or green eyes, but we all have a heart, and that pumps blood and has experiences of love and understanding, and that we have minds, brains. And these young people presented at the United Nations and asked the General Assembly, why do you teach us to hate if we know we're really the same? And that kept the whole assembly quiet. Not one pin could be heard dropped.
Wow. I'm thinking about the young women in Nigeria, and I wonder if you have any thoughts that you'd like to share.
Yeah, well, first of all, as Princess so rightly says to me, this has been going on for years. This is not new. What's new is that it was all at one time in one school. And someone from her extended family was kidnapped, plus she was in a situation where she was poisoned and in the hospital. It's what my thoughts are. Those poor young ones really, talk about traumatized, when you take young people away from your families and they brain train them, it becomes it's a hard process to come back. We've seen it with others. There's a book, Ishmael. I worked with this young man from Sierra Leone who was a child soldier, and how he had to revamp his brain, his mind, from thinking killing was okay and shooting everybody was wonderful. Or a young man that we had, Vandi Kanyako from Sierra Leone, he had been in our programs for a number of years, and then he went back to Sierra Leone, and his parents were killed, et cetera, and he went into the bush. But he taught peace songs, and in fact, he's on the CD. And so he worked with his fellow child soldiers. He wasn't a soldier. He was a peace warrior. And through music, he would change their attitude. And he won the Peace Award at the Hague Appeal for Peace and went on to get a doctorate in peace studies. So, so many success stories. What I would say, going back to Nigeria, is I'm so glad that the world is paying attention right now. And for me, seeing Princess in this position, it's like her destiny and fate to hold peacemaking as the answer for the issue rather than being angry and fighting the other side. So I am supporting her in this process of understanding how to stay calm with it all, how to work. She's going into the hospitals and seeing, and we've raised some money to distribute medical supplies and other supplies to families that have been wounded during that bombing, and to stay steady with it all, to look for the beauty and to remember that she's carrying the seeds of peace with her.
Wow, that's so inspiring.
Thank you.
We have more questions coming in. Marion from Munich asks, what would you say is the most important step to boost self-esteem in children? Thank you.
I have my doctorate in self-esteem. I worked on self-esteem development a lot, like how you can visualize it, then write it, and then create steps, how to become it, and then, you take an incident and how will you have success there. So what you do is you go backwards and you work through a process to get them to see that they can accomplish what they wanted to accomplish, but to visualize it to begin with. But what I would say at the same time about self-esteem development is self-esteem is really based on how you compare yourself with someone else. And it's more an external appraisal of oneself. While to be your authentic self, your soul self, your true self, that's something different, and it has no comparisons because it's totally individualized and yet universal at the same time. It's like you have characteristics that allow you to apply yourself, and in that application you can see results which then increase self-esteem. So self-esteem, there are ways to do it, but that might not change how the person really feels about themselves.
So
that
do you
comes
have
from something deeper.
Do you have any processes? We don't have a lot of time left, but do you have any quick experiential process that you could take us through?
That would help you with understanding who you are?
Yes.
I would love to do that, please. So
Great.
if everybody is willing to close their eyes and just sit for a second and breathe deep and allow the golden light, the light of oneness, to pour through us until we feel and experience every cell of our body being lighted. And in that lightness, we come to ask and to tell ourselves, I am not my body. I'm not my mind. I'm not my emotion. Who am I? Who am I? Asking, I am that. I am a being fully lighted, and I am here to serve the oneness. I allow myself full expression. I experience myself, and I know my gift to the world is. And I radiate this gift, and I share this gift, and I appreciate this gift, for that is who I am. May we all be blessed with this golden light and allow this light to transform all that is. And as I walk this path as a spiritual being, knowing I am who I am, may I bring joy and light and beauty and happiness to those around me. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, my next question is, you've received so many special awards, and I know each award has a story that could take the entire call. But I would love to hear, as long as we have time, I want to hear about each of the awards. The Mother Teresa Award.
Mm-hmm. I received that at the United Nations. It was a statue of a peace sculpture, and I no longer have it because I gave it to a group and they moved it around. I don't know where it went. But it was for working on the rights of the children, and I initiated the children's rights movement as a result of the Convention on the Rights of the Child that was written by the different countries of the world. And I had felt there was a World Summit for Children. I had felt very strongly that it needed to be of children, that it wasn't correct that they were not included. And so that award was given to me for that recognition.
Wow. The next award is the Citizens Department of Peace Award.
Yeah. The Department of Peace was an initiation by Dennis Kucinich, but it really was based on Jefferson's desire to have a Department of Peace. And in it, it said that the spiritual nature of human beings needed to be valued, and I did a lot of work supporting that and really writing about it and bringing groups together to talk about what would it be like to have a Department of Peace versus a Department of War, and if we could extend ourselves in peace, what would that look like? So I received that on White House lawn, a big award, a ceremony, etc.
That just sounds incredible. The International Educators Award for Peace.
Yeah, I think I was given that in India or Nepal, and that's an organization, the International Education and Educators for Peace, and I was given an award as, being an initiator of peace. I've done a lot of programs in India and Nepal, brought from all the Himalayas, about 250 young people together to look at what does it mean to live in peace and how do you design that and what commitments do you make and what documents, represent peace and how do you live a life of peace. Yeah.
And then finally, the State of Vermont passed a resolution honoring your life's work. That's incredible.
That was very nice. Yeah, I got a big scroll honoring me and my work. That was about 2 years ago. So, yeah.
Wow. That is just incredible work for your entire life. You've just made so much, you've made an impact, and it's really extraordinary. So, Nina, we've got 5 minutes left, and I wanted to talk just a little bit more about how people can find out more about you. Do you want to share your website?
Surely. It's the Children of the Earth website, www.coeworld.org, and that's the home of Children of the Earth, and I have a place on it, and most of our information is there. We're also on Facebook, Children of the Earth, and we have a page and a group, and we do Twitter occasionally, and we have a newsletter that goes out almost every month, so that tells about the different activities that we're planning and as well as the activities that young people are doing and some of the things that we care about. We have a handbook that's called Pioneering Spiritual Activism, which is really about all the different activities for reflection, the different models we use for connection, and how to plan actions. So it's a handbook. We have a teacher educator manual that goes with that too. Plus, it's youth to youth designed, so that we have youth that would come and go and work with other youth so that it's equalizing. And I think youth respond better to youth, and so they can be contracted to come out and work with your youth group.
Wonderful. And so people can become more involved. They can volunteer with your group through your website, correct?
Correct.
All right. Well, it has been such an inspiring and fun hour. I have so enjoyed it. I just am grateful to have you with me today, and I'll look forward to talking with you in the near future, Nina.
I want to thank you and thank all the listeners, and I truly hope that you feel enriched by this and that we continue to know each other, if not on the outer planes, on the inner planes, because we are all one. Thank you.
Thank you. And again, you can find the special offer on Nina's Living in Oneness page, and that's the Wisdom of the Heart, Songs to Inspire Transcendence and Peace CD. And I wanted to share with you, tomorrow we have coming up on the Living in Oneness Summit, John Thomas with Steve McIntosh. That is Mother's Day, May 11th at 8:30 Pacific. And Steve Farrell at 10 o'clock is interviewing Annika Coman. And then that again is on May 11th. And then John Thomas is interviewing Hank Queen at 11:30 Pacific time. I want to thank all of our volunteers. I want to thank everyone who's purchasing the upgrade package, supporting our work. That's available at livinginone.com/upgrade/. Thank you to Steve Farrell, John Thomas, Nanette Kennedy, Carrie Beach, Todd Kramer, Melissa Pori, Julian Cole, Joel Alexander, and Eleanor Healy and Debbie Satofsky. Thanks for joining us. It's been a great hour. Have a good day. Bye.